I would say write something in the comments. I will give my little welcome speech in a few minutes, but we do have Stephanie Thompson Green waiting to be our guest. So just give us a few minutes and provide some comments, because we would love to see what you say. So give us a few minutes. And I'm actually going to pull Stephanie down for a second and until I give my introduction. So 1 second. Oh, she came back on. I guess I can hide her.
I think you can. I don't know. But I'm here.
Yes. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate this. Welcome to my first Girl Chat Live. Tonight, we're going to talk about all things real estate. And I first would just like to let you know that you can see in the right-hand screen my book, as I am the author of A Brown Girl's Guide to Employment and Networking. And this is a topic that is a passion of mine. And so I just think it's important that, you know, especially during this crisis, that we are just aware of other opportunities that are available to us. And what better time, you know, than to learn about real estate, because just because, you know, the country is closed, the real estate industry is still moving, and we have so many transferable skills. So without further ado, I am going to invite Stephanie Thompson Green to join us. There she is. So hello.
Hi, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate it, being the first guest on Girl Chat, talking all things real estate tonight. And so I just want to share with you that, you know, we do know each other. You sold, you know, a house for me a few years ago, then you found another house for me last year. So I highly recommend you. And I also want to support small business during this pandemic that is happening across the United States. So, you know, I love talking, you know, all things workforce, and what not better industry than to talk about the real estate industry. So, you know, if you could just, you know, tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start off with that. And, you know, talk a little bit about, if you would, because there's people, first of all, there's 15 million people right now on unemployment, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would love if you could talk about a little bit about how you got into the industry, because you've been in for almost 3 years now. So it's not something that you've been doing for 20 years. You transitioned from another industry. So if you could talk a little bit about that, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. So thanks again. Thanks so much for having me. True story. We are certainly friends. We know each other. I love when my clients become friends, and she was a friend before being a client. So I'm honored to be the first guest on your chat, and I look forward to so many more as well. So guys, I am Stephanie. As Tamika mentioned, I did transition into real estate full-time about 3 years ago. And I came from a leadership career managing an amazing team in the aviation industry. Shout out to my JetBlue peeps if you're watching. So it was definitely a great transition for me. The way I got into real estate, my uncle actually nudged me and said, "Hey, I think you'd be good at this." He actually is a realtor, and he nudged me and he said, "I think you'd be great at this. I think you should go get your license." And at that time, honestly, I was focused on my full-time career. I had no intentions on leaving. I absolutely put all my energy energy into my full-time career. That being said, though, I am a big fan of buildable skills. Tamika, I know you talk a lot about stackable credentials. So let me say, I wasn't afraid of starting another business or stepping into entrepreneurship again. I have owned businesses in the past. I still work with life coaching clients. So that wasn't the reason I didn't want to do it. I just had all of my energy focused on my full-time career. That was my path at the time. But because I am a big fan of the buildable skills, I took the test, and I took the course, I took the test, I got my license, and I did help my uncle for a little bit. But then something actually happened, and I had an injury, and I couldn't work at my full-time career. I couldn't even do real estate. I was really laid up for a little bit. But I fully believe God puts you in situations where he needs you to take a leap of faith. And I did end up returning to my full-time career, but in those moments, I stayed there maybe for about a month later, and then I had to make the leap. I left my full-time career, took an early retirement there, and stepped into real estate full-time. So that's
Great.
kind of how I got in there.
And so, Stephanie, there's people that are sitting home saying, I hear you, but how am I going to, transition into, real estate by sitting home? So maybe you can talk a little bit about, the number of hours that it takes to, study for the test and how much it costs for the test, because a lot of people are on unemployment. And so they are eligible for training funds through their state.
Yep.
And so maybe, they're thinking, okay, I'm on unemployment. This would be a great time to transition. But really, how many hours does it take to study for the test, and what is the cost?
So the cost will vary because the very first thing you need to do is find a school. You need to find the real estate school. So there are certain approved schools that mass.gov can show you. So if you go to mass.gov, you'll be able to see, all the approved schools there. But I will just say, pro tip, don't be afraid to look on Groupon or, any of those discounting sites, because the course is a certified course. So whether this school teaches it or this school, you're going to get the same training. So, obviously the instructors will be a little different. So you want to search out and figure out, what school would be best for you, but don't be afraid to, maybe look on Groupon for, especially in these times, we might need a little help there. So don't be afraid for that. But the course will vary, for the price. So definitely do some research there. But it's a 40-hour course. So some schools do that over, certain weeknights. Some do like weekend blast, and you're done in a few weekends. So it's really about researching the course, how the school sets it up, and go from there. After you take the course, your instructor will certify your paperwork and all of that, and you'll go before the board to be approved. Once you go before the board, then you can then take your test. You have to pass your test. I believe it's with a 70. Don't quote me. We'll have to look that up. But you have to pass it with a 70. Some people don't pass it on the first try, and that's quite okay. But I will say you definitely want to put time in studying. So if this is something that you're looking to move forward into, perfect time, because you have this study time right now if you're been affected with this COVID-19 business. So so that's pretty much the process. Once you get certified, you get your license, then you have to hang your license at a brokerage. And there's many different brokerages that you can choose. I am with Keller Williams Realty, but you might have seen other ones. Just when you're driving around, you might see signs for Jack Conway or Coldwell Banker or any of the other brokerages. And you might have one that's just a boutique brokerage that it's just one broker and maybe one team owner. So, that's another part of the process. Once you get your license, finding out where you want to kind of hang your hat. But that's kind of the process in a nutshell.
Okay. And so let's talk about today. So, in this pandemic, because, thinking about, the country is, mostly closed, but is real estate closed? Like, what is your day looking like now? Talk a little bit about, what's happening right now in the industry. If I want to sell a house, is this the right time to, sell a house? Should someone contact you to say, I want to sell a house? Is the equity still going to be in their house? So maybe you can talk a little bit about what's happening right now. Is this a good time to, you talked about getting in the industry, but is this also a good time to sell?
Yeah. So the thing with real estate, and this is pandemic or no pandemic, it's very individual to the person that is involved in the transaction, right? So, as a whole, the market is definitely still moving. We have homes that are still being sold, buyers are still coming to find a new house. But things are very different than they were 6 months ago. 6 months ago, you didn't need a mask and gloves to be going into places. We're in a very unique situation, I think, because real estate, based on the state that you're living in. Some people have stay-at-home orders and they can't, even go show homes. Here in Massachusetts, Governor Baker did say we are essential, so we are deemed essential. So you do still have people that have to move. So I just picked up a client this week that unfortunately she's in a situation where she's got to get out of that situation, right? So that's essential, and we're going to help her through that process. But then, typically, especially in this spring and summer market, people just start liking to, be out at open houses and do all that. So we've really seen that kind of downturn because we're not hosting a lot of open houses or anything because we can't control those type of crowds right now. So it's definitely different, but the real estate market is still moving.
So can you talk a little bit about, first of all, congratulations. I know that you've won awards the past 2 years in your industry. And so could you just, tell us a little bit about the award you received? And then I would like to kind of transition that into talking about soft skills, needed in this industry. I think it's important as someone that speaks about employment, I don't want people to go into an industry where, if they're not a team builder or they don't like helping others or they're not personable. So just tell us a little bit about, let's talk about your awards first, and then we'll talk about some skills. But it would be great just to let the people know, someone that started really from zero. You were transitioning, like you said, from the aviation industry, and then you won these awards, which is amazing. So talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk a little bit about soft skills.
Oh, girl. Well, wow, you're really blowing me up. So thank you for that. So for the awards, so 2018, I did win the Rookie of the Year award, and that was, my first full year in full-time real estate. So that was really exciting, completely unexpected. I didn't even know that Rookie of the Year was an award. So that was completely unexpected, and that was great. And I also won, I was a Bronze Award winner. So every sales category is tiered. So I was a Bronze Award winner. And then last year, so 2019, I actually doubled my business from 2018. So that was very exciting. And I won top performer in my sales category as well. 2020, first quarter was definitely shaping up to be great. But I think this pandemic has definitely, real estate included, but all businesses have really had to take a step back and reevaluate, what does 2020 look like? So for me, I'm a very positive person. I'm going to remain positive. And I think just in any industry, as long as you have the best intention for helping others, it's all going to work out for the best. So that's kind of how my 3 years of awards, if you would, have gone.
And so let me ask you, so, not everyone wins Rookie of the Year. You were the only one that won Rookie of the Year. So I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about, the soft skills needed for this industry. Why do you think you've been so successful? But also someone behind the camera might be saying, well, I don't like to smile. I don't like to, I don't like to, I'm an introvert. Can this industry still be, for me?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the soft skills needed to join this industry, because, I believe you mentioned, all you have to be is 18 to join, have a social security number. So talk a little bit about the soft skills needed for this industry.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you're right. It takes all types of people in all types of industries. And, some people lean and gravitate more towards a particular industry. I think the beauty in real estate is I work with people that don't like to smile too much. And I clearly am someone who likes to smile. I'm an extrovert. But in my circle in my team, I have people that, don't like to smile too much and just want to get right to business. I have, the fluffy, the huggers, and all of us. I have people that really pay close attention to detail. So I think it's a career that you can make fit your skills. So I think that's really great. I think one thing you definitely want to have is a heart for people, because this is a people business. Like, you're literally, people are trusting you with their largest assets, and you want to have their best intentions at heart. So you want to be a listener. You want to be able to spend some time with them, understand what their motivation is, what their needs are, so that you can best help them get to the next step for what they are looking to do.
Great. And so would you encourage a working mother to join? The mother would be working, but would you encourage a mother or a dad that's leading a family to join this industry? What has it allowed you, as a mom? What's some of the things that it's allowed you versus when you used to work in aviation per se, 100 hours a week or whatever it is? But what are some of the benefits of being in this industry as a mom?
So a lot of people start businesses because they say, I just want to be my own boss and I don't want to have to work on a schedule. I will tell you, this business is a little crazy because you're actually working with clients for the most part after their working hours, right? So if someone wants to go look at a house, but they work 9 to 5, you're going to be showing them a house at 6 or on the weekend or something like that. So I don't want people to be misled in thinking, oh, it's going to be a great career and I'll just work my hours that I want to. Again, like I said, it's really a people business. So you really got to focus on the people and what their needs are. If they have to meet Saturday mornings at 10 a.m., that's what we're doing. We're not sleeping in, right? So I think that's really important to note. But it absolutely has given me the flexibility. So when I was in my previous career, I mean, my daughter runs track. She does really well, and I love watching her. Like, she has perfected her craft, and it really makes me happy just to watch her. I now have the flexibility to actually I know the past 2 years I have been at every single meet. It has not hindered me in any way because I can work my schedule for the most part around those track meets because I live by my calendar. So as long as they're on my calendar already, I can let a client know, no, I'm sorry, that's family time at that time. So I would say, for the moms or dads that are looking to get into the career, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, it could provide you and your family for, it could definitely provide for your family for generations to come too, if that's what you want to build on your legacy. So, yeah.
And based on what you said, if there's someone on this on this live that maybe is under 30, no children, could be still in college, there's college students, is this the type of industry that you can work part-time, right? Because can you, just say, I only want to put, 15 hours, 20 hours in, as one that believes in several streams of income, not just, I think anything through this crisis, shifting the subject a little bit, is that, it's important to always have several streams of income, which is why I talk about stackable credentials so much, because when you have stackable credentials, that means that you're marketable, you can have different businesses, you're learning new things, and you can go off in different areas. So maybe you can speak to the people that are under 30, no children, in college, building their credentials, whether they're getting a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, whatever it is. But is this that type of industry that can generate another stream of income for them as they're going to school, and trying to open other businesses too? Would you recommend that? And then we have a question, so I'll take a question after that.
So here's the thing. You mentioned it, and we had talked about it before. You got to be 18 years old. So those that are graduating from high school, getting ready to go to college, get your license, get your real estate license. Now, here's the thing. There are fees that come along with, having a license. You're going to have to continue your education and pay for, your fees at your brokerage or things like that. So there are fees involved in this business. However, it gives you the flexibility. If you this career is a career where if you are working another, full-time job or, looking to build another business, whatever it is, if you want to sell 3 houses a year, sell 3 houses a year. If that's your goal, you can do that. If you want to sell 1 house a year, if a college student just over the summer wants to work during the summer, sell a couple houses, that's beautiful. But you have to have the license in order to do it. And you have to have, your license at a brokerage to do that. But absolutely, I would say if you're 18, you got your social security number and you're looking for another stream of income, definitely research the possibility of being a realtor.
And so, you mentioned earlier, you have to work for a broker until you have your license for 3 years. And can you just talk a little bit about that before we take a question? You're almost at that point where you've going to have your license for 3 years. So can you just talk a little bit about if someone, is thinking about their future, they're envisioning this, okay, they're going to study for the test, they work under a broker, and then they hit that 3-year mark. What is the next point? Like, what happens from that point? How does that work?
So this is a very individual career for people. So there are going to be people that have their license for 25 years. I know plenty of them that never wanted to be a broker. So you don't have to transition into being a broker. People that want to transition to be a broker more than likely will want to have a team that they work with underneath them and build a business from there. So they might want to have their own brokerage, or, I could still become a broker and still work with my Keller Williams family. So it doesn't mean you have to separate. It's just a whole new set of guidelines. And it's really what you want to do. It's setting up your goals for your future. So when I talk about legacy building and, I just mentioned, build a career for your entire family, that's on my agenda. So that's going to happen, whether it's this year or 5 years from now. Eventually that will happen, because that's me vision boarding and moving forward. So it really is individually up to the realtor, what they want to do. So you don't have to become a broker, but in order to become a broker, you have to have your real estate license for 3 years, work under a broker for 3 years, and they have to sign off your credentials and things that you've done. So so it's definitely part of, of the next step if that's what you want, but you don't have to do that.
Okay. And we have a question. So I'm going to take a question. And the question is, how do you think COVID-19 will affect the real estate industry?
Yeah, that's a very relevant question. So we are definitely spending a lot. When I say we, I mean realtors, not just from Keller Williams. I'm on a call every morning, 8 o'clock, every morning, 9:30. We're doing a lot of Zoom calls, as I know a lot of people are, but we're really spending time together. It's brought us together to really do some research as to what might happen. Now, I certainly can't predict the future, and I don't think anyone can. But what we can look at is trends. And so a lot of people refer this to is this the housing crash of 2008, 2009? What I can say right now, it's not, because back then people didn't have equity, and that's what's different right now. People still have a lot of equity in their homes. So we haven't seen that crash. Because it's just different. People have, sustainable equity in their homes. But to that point, I don't know what will happen in the future. So when I'm talking individually with a seller or a buyer, we're talking about their individual situation, and is right now the right time for you to move forward, because we don't know, what's going to happen in 3 months or 5 months. But that's what I would say. If we're trying to equate it, that's the best analogy I can give. Is it's not like 2008 or 2009, only because we don't see, people lacking in the equity. So does that kind of help with that?
Yeah, that's a great answer. So if you're just now joining us, shout out to Jessica and Ciola and Eric, who are joining us on this live. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Tamika Jacques. I'm the author of A Brown Girl's Guide to Employment and Networking, joined here with Stephanie Thompson Green of Thompson Green Homes, Keller Williams Realty, and she's answering some questions. So Steph, you have another question?
Sure.
And the question is from Ciola. Do you recommend a realty license if interested in investment property, getting into house flipping? That's a great question.
Yeah. So I work with a lot of investors as their agent. So it's really, I guess I need a little more information, and we can certainly talk offline. I'll share my information with you because if you want to become a realtor and then personally flip the houses, there's some liability there that you'll have to disclose that you're the realtor. You'll have to disclose that you have an interest in the house, that kind of thing. But if you want to become a realtor and work with investors, then of course you want to get your realtor's license and move on from there to help the flips go on. So if you're looking to more be like the project manager, there's a little tricky stuff in there. So we should definitely, we can definitely talk a little more offline about it if you'd like. But I think to answer the question, if you want to be involved in the flip, you might not want to have your license because there's some liabilities there. But not to say that it doesn't happen, but you just want to make sure you're covered.
Great. And so I just wanted to, I think this is a great industry to join. You've talked a little bit about, you have to be 18. And so, it is, sorry, I looked down at the question and Ciola said, looking to purchase and flip. So, I don't know, if that would determine
we can definitely talk. If you can just hook us up later, Tamika.
Yes.
So
okay.
We can definitely talk because if, like I said, there's just some, there's some separation that needs to happen if you also want to be the one that's flipping and owning the house. So, if you want to be that realtor, there's just some liabilities. So we want to make sure that you're covered in that. So,
okay. So we will hook you up with, yes, we will provide you information. I'm sorry. I looked down. I shouldn't have the question because I was trying to ask a question at the same time, but we will pass on your information to Ciola. Sure. And so I was wondering if you could talk about, in Massachusetts specifically, there is 55% of the workforce is women in Massachusetts. And so what does that mean for the real estate industry? I'm not sure if you know the percentage of women that are part of the real estate industry, but if you could talk a little bit about, what does that look like as a woman? Do you face any challenges as a woman of color, in this industry? Especially because, it's real in Massachusetts, we have a lot of women working, but we don't have a lot of women that are business owners or on that track like you are, on to have your own brokerage. So I was just wondering if you could just give us some insight, on that, as we do have working moms out there. They want their own business and looking to see, some of the challenges that you might, have faced. You've had many successes with your awards, but what are some challenges that you can talk about?
So to answer your first question, I don't know the percentages, male to female. I think what's interesting about this particular career is even if there's 40 men in my office and 100 women in my office, it doesn't really matter because my business is my business. So when I go to, another house to work with another buyer's agent or another seller's agent, when I'm doing that, it's just that agent and me, right? So it's not like this big corporation. And, so it's very, again, and I've said it, a couple times throughout this, but it's very individual. So it's me working with another person, another realtor to kind of work these things out. I've worked with great, amazing realtors, and I've worked with some that left some things to be desired, right? So it's all individual with that. But some challenges as far as a woman of color, I think there's just sometimes some ignorance out there. And I remember my first year sitting at a table with, some people that really didn't know who I was, but then I won this award and they were like, wow, who is this person? So they really wanted to kind of learn who I was. And I'll never forget, it really struck me, but the realtor said to me, wow, do you think you're getting a lot of your clients because of your race? And
wow.
It just really struck me because I the woman really was heartfelt. Like it didn't seem like she was trying to be derogatory or anything,
Mhm.
but she was just ignorant to the fact, like, no, I'm getting my business the same way you have to go hustle for your
Right.
business. Like business is not just coming to me because of my race, right? So, so I would say sometimes there's a challenge, with learning and just people not knowing, but in general, like I said, it's very individual and I can hold my own. So, if someone's going to come,
Right.
we're going to, figure this out really quickly. So,
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that personal story, because I think that's, in Massachusetts or wherever you are, it's just important to know some of the challenges that are going to be faced. Yes, you've had many successes, but there are challenges to each industry. And it's important, just to be open and to know that what you will face. But on the flip side of that, we know that in 2019 that you were successful because, when you work for a brokerage and when you hit a certain amount of sales, you get to keep all your commissions, and you did that. So maybe you
I
could
did
just talk a
that.
little bit about that. We have a few more minutes, but just maybe talk a little bit about that. And then, there is one more question there, but if you could just share, a little bit about how, that happened, that you hit your sales and then you didn't have to give any commission to your broker.
Yeah. So that was a very exciting time. And here's the thing: every brokerage is different. So when you finally get your license and then you're shopping for, which brokerage do I want to hang my license at, like we were talking about earlier, that's definitely one of the things you want to consider. Like, as I mentioned, there's going to be fees involved that you have to pay your broker. And in my case, in my office, I'm blessed that once I hit a certain amount, I keep 100%. And
Yes.
2018, I didn't quite hit that. I was still getting started. I was that rookie of the year, but 2019, whew, what a glorious time.
Yes.
I did. And it's just such a freeing feeling, because it's like you work towards a goal and you made it happen. So, yes. So again, every brokerage will be different. Some brokerages don't do it that way. Some brokerages, the most you can get is 90% of your commission, and you'll have to give them 10. But my brokerage, once I hit a certain level of sales, I can get 100%. So
yes, I love it. Well, congratulations. And I just want to finish out with two questions.
Okay.
One is, how long is the schooling or self-preparation for the real estate license?
Yeah, so we touched on it before. So it's a 40-hour course. Some schools will do that over, a week, hard and heavy, 8 hours a day. Some will do them, 2-night classes over a series of weeks. Some do weekend blast classes. So it's really just researching the approved schools and seeing, how you want to get that done. But the actual coursework is a 40-hour course that you need to go through. The study time, though, I would put time in. You want to schedule your test while you're still fresh, because you just took the class, but you want to give yourself some time. I think I did like 3 weeks in between my course ending and hard and heavy studying throughout. There's, apps that you can get. There's some resources for studying that were very helpful for me. And I could certainly share if anyone needed those, once they start going through the process, just hit me up. But yeah, so I would say definitely put that study time in, plan for that, because you want to be able to pass and not have to take the test over and over.
Great. And the last question comes from my sister, Tanya Rabowen. And the question is, this was a career change for you, which you talked a little bit about earlier. And if someone is interested in changing careers, what are some attributes? We talked a little bit about skills that someone should possess to become a successful real estate agent, because there's some agents that don't sell anything. They say they're a real estate agent, right? So maybe.
So, and yeah, we touched on it a little bit. You have to, my one criteria, I think, to evaluate yourself is, how do I relate with people? Okay. So it doesn't mean that you have to be this happy, bubbly, outgoing personality. But it does mean that you have to be able to relate to people, because, as I mentioned before, these people are trusting you with maybe their biggest asset that they have, right? So you want to be able to give them good advice, good sound advice, help them through the process. I find myself being a coach throughout the entire process, because especially first-time home buyers, like you need to coach them through each step because they've never done this before, versus an investor that's, flipping these properties. You might not have to coach him through a lot, or her through a lot, but it's really individual. So I'd say definitely the skill you want to, evaluate within yourself is, how do I relate to people? And then everything else starts falling into place.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for all those questions. I appreciate all of you who asked the questions. And Stephanie, how does someone get in touch with you? How could they find you?
Yeah, so I think the easiest way is probably social media. That's where we are right now. So you can get me on Instagram or Facebook at Realtor Steph T. Okay, so at Realtor Steph T. And I know, Tamika, you'll share that out a little later. But all my information is there: my phone, my website, my everything. So I think that's the best way you can direct, DM me, whatever you need to do. But at Realtor Steph T.
Great. Thank you so much for being the first
It's been
participant
an
on
honor.
Girl Chat. I appreciate it. And I just wanted to say to everyone that's listening, if there's an industry that you feel that you would like to know more about, drop it in the comments. Send me, a direct message. Let me know. Send me an email at Dr. T. Jacques at gmail.com, or you can go on my website, drtjacques.com, and you can leave me a message and just tell me, who else should I be interviewing? Is there someone else that you would like to know about, or an industry that you're thinking of transferring into? So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Remember that stay healthy, be safe, and I appreciate everyone that has joined us tonight, and I look forward to seeing you guys in a few weeks. So keep your eyes out. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Take care, guys. Thanks.